Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kaylee and these are my books. So today's video is the start of a new themed reading vlog, and in this reading vlog I am reading all things spooky and snowy. So I'm planning to read a mixture of thriller books and horror books that all have snowy settings. I love a snowy setting in thriller books and horror books. Some favorites that come to mind are One by One by Ruth Ware, The Shining by Stephen King, Misery by Stephen King, and Dead Voices by Catherine Arden. And I just want more of them in my life. I like the snowy setting in both thriller books and horror books because oftentimes snowy setting leaves us with a very isolated setting for our main protagonists, and that is very creepy, where there is nowhere to run, there is nowhere to hide, there is nowhere to escape. You're just stuck because of the weather, nothing that you can control. You're stuck because of this massive snowstorm. That's terrifying. And I live in Central Texas. I grew up in Southern California. I am not well versed in snow. Like I have experienced snow only a handful of times. I lived in Kansas for 2 years, and during those 2 years I did experience 2 winters of snow, but that is the extent of my experience with snow. And because I'm now in Central Texas, I'm kind of missing the snow that I got to have in Kansas a couple years ago, and I need to experience some snowy, cold winter settings in books, since I'm obviously not getting it in real life here. So the 2 thrillers that I plan to read during this vlog are Shiver and Breathless. Both of these covers are just A++ for the snowy winter vibes. And then the 2 horror books that I plan to read, the first of which is Voices in the Snow by Darcy Coates, and the second is This Is Where We Talk Things Out. This is in ebook form for me, so I don't have the physical, but it's up on the screen somewhere. This Is Where We Talk Things Out is a novella, so kind of the outlier here, but the other 3 are full length. I just love too how all of these books look together. The snowy vibes are here. And at the end of this video, I'm going to rate each of these books based off of enjoyment like I typically do, but then I also will have ratings based off of creepiness and ratings based off of snowy setting. So basically, how atmospheric was the snowy setting? How important was the snowy setting? So basically, if you want to pick one of these books up based off of how snowy is it, you will know by the end of the video. And spoiler alert, I've already read these books. I'm filming the intro out of order, so I already know too, and I'm about to talk about those ratings, but you'll see that at the end of this video. So let me send you back in time to when I first started reading these books. Hello, I'm sitting on a chair in the middle of my living room, kind of weird place to be, but I moved my reading chair over here because I'm actually playing video games on my TV and I wanted to be closer to the TV, and I was listening to a bit of Breathless, which I don't know how to feel about it so far. So basically the premise is, oh, Teddy's leaving me since I'm talking too much, and you can see his large amount of toys on the floor in the background. Oh my goodness. But Breathless is about this woman who is trying to get this exclusive interview for her job with this like mountain climber. I don't know what the correct term is, but basically like he's a badass within mountain climbing, and he's breaking all these records and everyone wants to interview him, but he doesn't grant interviews, but he's granting this woman an interview if she gets to the top of the mountain with him. So she is very much a novice, not experienced in hiking and climbing, but she is determined to make it to the top of this mountain with this mountain climbing group because she needs this interview for her job. But along the way, things are kind of getting weird, and there are some deaths that seem like they might not be accidental, but they could be accidental because mountain climbing is super dangerous. And she is getting more and more worried that she's climbing up this mountain with this group of people, and one of them is actually a murderer. And that premise sounds so exciting. I bought this book from Book of the Month and I was so stoked for it, but so far, and I'm 50% of the way in, I don't know. I'm very interested in the mountain climbing stuff. Like when they're talking about getting acclimated to each level, like that's really interesting. And when they're talking about the dangers of climbing and how they're having to go up this certain route because of the weather, like I'm very interested in that part. But I am not very interested in the drama of these potential killings, which sounds weird. Like, why would I be more interested in the mountain climbing than the murder stuff? But I just feel like the murder stuff so far is not that entertaining and interesting. Like, it's pretty repetitive, and I feel like no one really cares about it so far except our main character, but even she barely cares about it so far. So I'm like, well, if no one here cares about it, why do I care about it? And I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like the book is trying to focus on both the murders and the climbing, but then not really giving either the attention that it deserves. Like, I wanted to either be less focused on the like science behind the climbing and more focused on these potential murders, or I want it to be less talking about the spooky stuff from the murders and more talking about the drama of the climbing. But I feel like it's trying to do both, and it's not doing either very well. Like, for example, this doesn't spoil anything in my opinion, but for example, one of the things about the potential murders is there's this mysterious whistling man. And she keeps hearing a whistle all the time, like outside her tent and like in all these places, and she's freaked out. But I'm like, a whistle? That's what we're scared about right now, a whistle? Come on. Like why can't it be like someone spooky like whispering through a tent like, you're gonna die? Like, that would be more entertaining than just a whistle. I don't know. I feel like it's just kind of a watered down murder mystery so far. Like, it's just not very spooky. Not that thrillers need to be spooky, but you know, they're up on a mountain in this isolated setting with a potential murderer. I want to feel some fear. I want to feel some tension from the characters, but instead we're just getting whistling man. I don't know. I'll check in later, like probably once I finished it, honestly. Because like I said, I'm about halfway through right now. I'm really hoping shit hits the fan in this last 50%, because so far, I just want more to happen than is currently happening. Oh, and one other thing I want to say too is the characters. Like, I do not care at all about any of the characters that are in this book. And that's okay. Like, sometimes thrillers are like that if the plot is interesting enough. But I feel like the plot is pretty slow moving and not interesting enough. So to not have characters I care about and to have the plot be super slow, I'm like, why am I reading this book? So fingers crossed, last 50%, a ton of stuff starts going down. I wanted to update because I finished Breathless. I initially gave it 3 stars, but it's been a day and I'm lowering the rating to 2 stars. I initially gave it 3 stars because while I was finding so much of the book to be boring and I completely disengaged, was not interested in the story or the characters, the last 15% was exciting. I did enjoy the last 15%. And so when I finished the book, I was left with the positive feelings from the last 15%. But then, you know, giving it a day, getting some distance from that last 15%, I'm like, is the last 15% of a book enough to bump it up to 3 stars? I don't think so. So this is a 2 star. It is a higher 2 star, but definitely feels more like a 2 star to me than a 3 star, which is unfortunate because the premise sounded so good. But ultimately, my criticisms are just that it was boring. I stand by what I said in the first clip, where it felt like it couldn't decide if it wanted to be murder mystery or mountain climbing literary book, because it just was too much about like the science behind mountain climbing, and science is the incorrect word here, but I'm not sure what to use, like the safety measures of mountain climbing, stuff like that. Like, we got so much detail about like how much oxygen you're supposed to have and like how fast you can go up the mountain and how many times you have to do certain routes and stuff like that. And I wanted it to either lean more into the mountain climbing or more into the murder mystery, because if we lean more into the mountain climbing, maybe it could tell us more about what it feels like to be doing this mountain climbing. Instead, it just felt kind of like info dumping about mountain climbing, but we didn't get to see the characters really experience much of the mountain climbing. Like, I did not feel like I was there. This book was not atmospheric at all for me. But then on the flip side, I think part of why we didn't get, you know, the feel of the mountain climbing, because it was trying to balance the murder mystery with the mountain climbing, but again, not enough
attention was given to the murder mystery, and it just felt very repetitive for what's going on. I didn't feel any fear or tension for any of the characters. And that's not to say deaths didn't happen. I just did not care at all when deaths were happening. And I couldn't really theorize about what was happening, not because it was unique and unpredictable, but simply because I did not care what was happening. Well, the end twist, do I think it was a good end twist? It was probably pretty predictable if you were caring enough to theorize. But for me, I just was like, that was the extent of my reaction. And so the action in the last 15%, I wish we were having that action more throughout the book. It didn't need to be nonstop action for me, but it needed to have much more than it did have. And so I feel like I wouldn't recommend this book to anyone because it wasn't literary enough to give a good, like, immersive experience into mountain climbing, but then it wasn't thrilling enough to work as a thriller. So I just don't think this is a successful book. Now I am giving it 2 stars, not 1 star. I didn't absolutely despise it. I just don't think it did either of the things it was trying to do very well. And so there were moments I liked, but most of the moments I was completely indifferent about. I'm fingers crossed hoping that my next book that I read for this video is better, because I'm really bummed that the first book I read was such a miss because I was so excited for this book. I even did this as a buddy read with my mom for the month where we were both so excited and we both were disappointed. So kind of sucks to start the video with a book I didn't like, but maybe I will like all the other ones and the video will end on a high note. I don't know exactly what I'm reading next, but I'm leaning towards picking up The Voices in the Snow by Darcy Coates, but I'll let you know in the next check-in what I ended up picking up. Hello, I wanted to check in because I'm about 30% of the way through. This is where we talk things out. Sorry the lighting is kind of bad. It's a gloomy, stormy day today, and I have the lights off in my apartment, and I don't want to turn them on because it's such nice ambiance to be reading this horror novella during. I also have some spooky ambiance up on my TV, so all around immaculate vibes. But 30% of the way through this novella so far, it's only 94 pages, so I'm like 30 pages in. And it's already pretty creepy. Like, it's not action-packed or anything, but basically it's just about a daughter reconnecting with her mom. The daughter is a full-grown woman, and she is reconnecting with her mom before her wedding to see if maybe that is a relationship that she wants to rekindle before the wedding and possibly invite the mom to the wedding. So her and her mom are going to a cabin, but it's during a snowstorm, and so it's like they probably shouldn't be going there, but she doesn't want to put off the trip anymore because she doesn't really want to go there with her mom, because as we see in the car right up there, her mom is terrible, and I'm like, girl, you do not need to refoster this relationship. Just do not talk to your mom. Don't invite her to your wedding. She sucks. She's so emotionally abusive. But it's very creepy because when they turn up to the cabin, it is an exact replica of like her childhood home. It's not where she grew up, but like all the furniture inside is the same, and her bedroom is like her childhood bedroom, and it's really creepy that her mom decorated this cabin and like put up all of her same posters she liked as a teenager, even though she's like a full-grown woman. It's just like creepy so far, and I don't trust this mom. I don't trust this storm. I don't trust anything. I don't know if we're gonna get this cabin being haunted. I don't know if the mom is gonna go full insane and like force the daughter into like a reverted childhood thing and like make the adult pretend like she's a kid, or like the storm is gonna snow them in and they're gonna have a survival situation. Like, I have no clue what's happening. I don't know anything about this book. I don't know this is synopsis of this book, but anything could happen, and I'm excited to see what does happen because the vibes are already there. I can feel the like creepy, eerie tension just building. So I'm gonna jump back into reading this since the ambiance is just so perfect for reading this horror novella right now, and I'll check in maybe like when I'm 2/3 of the way through. Hi, I'm in the same spot checking in because it's been like 10 minutes and I'm 60% of the way through now, and Oh my god. Oh my freaking god. Oh my god. What the what? Oh my god. This mom. Okay, I'm just gonna say, what the hell was the daughter thinking going on this trip? What the hell was the daughter thinking trying to reconnect with this mom? No! No! Oh, I'm getting anxiety when I'm reading this book. I am freaked out. This is it's not even like anything like super crazy. It's just the build up and the tension, the way this book is written is getting to me. I am flipping through these pages. I really need to get ready. I teach in like 2 hours and I am still in pajamas. I need to get ready. I need to lesson plan. But you know what I'm gonna do instead? I'm gonna finish this book. I'll check in once I'm done. Holy freaking crap. Like, this book is making me feel things. My heart is racing while I'm reading it. I think I'm loving it, but also it's making me so angry. I'm so mad when I read this, but like, I'm happy too. I don't know. I'm feeling so many things. I feel very alive while I'm reading this. All right, I'll check in like 10 minutes when I finish. Holy crap. Okay, bye. I just finished. Oh my god. That ending was crazy. The whole book was crazy. What a wild ride. I'm giving it 5 stars. I loved it so much. Holy freaking crap. Like, oh my god, that is messed up. It is dark. It's so good. It's so good. I'm like giggling because of how crazy that was. It's gonna make you angry, but it's so entertaining. It's supposed to make you angry. And really the message to be gained from this book is, if your family is toxic, do not be afraid to cut them out of your life, because otherwise some bad shit could happen. And this book is detailing the bad shit that could happen. Because holy crap, some bad stuff definitely happened in it. Highly recommend if you're a fan of horror. Like, this was so fun. It's 90 pages. I think I read it in like 45 minutes, so it's a really, really fast 90 pages. And I'm in love. I loved it. Like I said in the earlier update, my heart was beating so fast the entire time. And that is the feeling that I want in a horror book. Like, I read horror books so that I can feel more alive. And man, this book reminded me that I was alive because I was scared during it. I was feeling many emotions. So highly recommend. What a great book. What a win. I'm so happy that I read this. Hello, I'm about a third of the way through Shiver and I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I think the drama in it is so good. So basically the premise is we have a past timeline and a current timeline. And in the current timeline, we have a bunch of people invited to a pretty secluded cabin. They get there and they realize they have no idea who invited them, because all of their invitations seem like they came from each other, but everyone's like, no, I didn't invite you. No, I didn't invite you. Like, what the hell is going on? And they are all there because their friend from the past timeline, Saskia, has sometime in between the past timeline and the present timeline has gone missing on the mountain, and she has just been declared dead in the present timeline. So they thought they were all meeting up there as like a commemorative last meet. You know, we all used to be friends. Now our friend has just been declared dead. But there seems to be a lot of mystery around their meeting now. And then weird things start happening, like their phones disappear, the ski lift stops working, and they're all stranded up there freaking out. And then in the past timeline, they are all snowboarders trying to go pro, like they're trying to qualify for the Olympics, and there's lots of competition, and they're all kind of frenemies in the past timeline. So there's so much delicious drama going on. Like, for example, they tricked one of their friends into taking vodka shots and then messing up at the next day's competition because everyone else was just taking water shots. So it's like that kind of stuff going on, and I'm just eating it up. I'm loving all of this petty drama in their friend group. It's almost reminding me of like a dark academia thriller such as Ruth Ware's The It Girl, where you have this really toxic group of friends all competing, but instead of them competing in a school setting, they're competing, of course, in this snowboarding setting. So I am getting a lot of really fun feelings from it because it's just so dramatic and so fun to read about. I mean, these people are so toxic, and I just love to read about toxic people, you know? So I'm excited to keep going, and I actually am in love with both timelines. Like, I'm never disappointed when we switch to the past or when we switch back to the future, because the future of them all being stranded is so creepy, but then the past has so much delicious drama. So I am very intrigued to find out what happened to Saskia, who is behind stranding them at this cabin, and learning more about this snowboarding competition. Hello, I'm checking in from my car because I'm about to go book shopping. I'm super excited about that. Got a gift card for Christmas and haven't used it yet. That is going to be a separate video though. It should already be up on my channel when you're watching this video. So if you want to see me go book shopping and see what I get today, go check out that. But I'm checking in because I'm over 2/3 of the way through. I was trying to check in when I hit the like 2/3 of the way through of Shiver, but suddenly I'm 80% of the way through, almost done. So I figured I should do a quick check-in before I finish the book. I'm finding this book so readable, so entertaining. The drama is continuing to be very dramatic in the past timeline, and then in the future timeline, very creepy things keep happening. I'm finding it pretty unpredictable. Like, I don't know what's going on. I'm intrigued to find out what's going on. In terms of attachment to characters, I feel like we could be doing a little bit better with that, because there are certain people where I'm like, who are you again? And it's not like there's a big cast of characters. It's just that besides, in my opinion, besides the main two people, our main woman that we follow, and then the missing girl, Saskia, everyone else kind of blends together. That isn't a detriment to my enjoyment of the book, but it is potentially a detriment to how I end up rating it, because potentially the twist at the end might not hit, because I'm like, who is that person again? You know, I don't know for sure. I'm just predicting a potential flaw because I'm talking so highly about it, but I wanted to make sure to mention that there is maybe some issues with distinguishing characters, particularly the men in this book. I mean, I do not remember which name goes to which guy and all that, so when they mention the name, I'm like, whose brother are you? Who are you sleeping with? What's going on? But overall, the story is easy to understand. Like I said, I just think really the story is focused on these two women. And so sometimes the side characters are a bit lost in the narrative. But the plot is so exciting that I don't care. My enjoyment is still very, very high. I'm finding this pretty fast paced too. And I'm actually intrigued by the snowboarding content. Unlike Breathless, where I did not give a shit by the end about the mountain climbing aspects, the snowboarding stuff, I am intrigued because I feel like this is a book that is very much focused on the creepy missing woman future timeline murder mystery type of thing with snowboarding in the background. And so therefore I'm not feeling any animosity towards the snowboarding scenes, because there's the correct balance, in my opinion, between sports content and thriller content for this thriller to have, where Breathless, there was just too much of the sports content, the sports being mountain climbing. So the little taste tests that we're getting of the snowboarding are actually like breaths of fresh air in this book, where, you know, they're always told through the thriller lens, meaning every snowboarding scene we get is furthering this creepy plot of this really toxic group of friends. But overall, I'm having a great time with it. I'll check in once I'm done, because I'm gonna finish it very soon. I'll probably be listening to it a little bit as I'm walking around the bookstore. At the speed I'm listening to it at, I think I have like 30 minutes left of listening time. And I like to spend a long time in the bookstore, so we might finish it in the middle of the bookstore. So you might get a final check-in in my car yet again, but just when I'm parked in the bookstore parking lot instead. So I'll see you in a bit. I'm so excited to go book shopping. Ah! Hello, it is still the same day, just a lot later than I expected to check in, but I did finish Shiver and I really enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna give it 4 stars. I didn't finish it earlier because I ended up not listening to anything while I was going book shopping. I just got too into looking at all the books. And then I ended up filming a bunch and editing a bunch, and now it's really late and I just finished my video. It's still uploading. In fact, you might be able to hear my computer in the background sounding like it is about to explode. That is because I'm trying to upload this video for tomorrow. But while it was just been uploading, I was able to finish up listening to Shiver. And yeah, 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed this. The only reason why I'm not giving it 5 stars is, like I mentioned earlier, I do think the characters could have used a little bit more distinguishing factors between the two, particularly the men. Like, I just really struggled keeping apart the men, and it didn't lead to the detriment of the story. This is a high 4-star. In fact, I did debate giving it 5 stars, but I think it really was just missing a little tiny bit more character work for it to be a full 5 stars, because then I think some of the stuff that happens at the end would have hit even harder if I could keep track of who exactly was who. And that might have just been a personal problem, but this is my personal rating. So just because it might have just been a very subjective personal problem doesn't mean I'm not going to rate it based off of the personal problem that I had with it. But overall, I thought this was a fun time, exactly what I was looking for in a snowy thriller. I am so happy that this one hit since Breathless didn't hit. This is what I wanted. This fast-paced, super dramatic plot, lots of snow content, and then the backstory and the current story were both so good, but they both had snow content, which was fantastic, because a lot of the times I feel like in dual timelines in a snowy setting, one of the timelines is not in a snowy setting, because they're not going to be stuck at a cabin twice. But because of the snowboarding in the past timeline, there was a lot of snow in both of it, so the whole book felt really atmospheric and just fun to read. Super fun time, lots of delicious drama, lots of fun twists at the end, and lots of action, which I liked. So I'm calling this a win. I am now going to start Voices in the Snow by Darcy Coates. That's going to be the last book for this vlog. I think I'm going to start reading it just while I'm waiting for my video to upload, and then I'm going to go to sleep. But I don't know if I'm going to update tonight for it. I might end up being too tired after I've started it. So you'll either get an update from me tonight about the beginning of Voices in the Snow or tomorrow morning when I wake up. Alright, see you soon. So I'm halfway through Voices in the Snow, and I'm very happy to report that I am loving it so far. I am shocked that there's a romance in here. You know how many times I've read a Darcy Coates book and been like, man, I want these two characters to fall in love, and they never do because I didn't think Darcy Coates writes romance. This book, it's such a sweet romance too. I'm loving everything. It's so spooky what's going on, and like I have no idea what I would do in these character situations. And there is a plot point that would typically annoy me in a lot of other books, but because what they're being faced with is so difficult to imagine how you could act rationally because they're being faced with such crazy circumstances, it's not bothering me in this book. It actually feels really realistic, and these characters feel like real people being put through such terrible circumstances. And so basically the premise for this book is we know there's some sort of apocalyptic situation going on. We don't know what the apocalypse is, but there's something that's really, really bad where this woman is trying to get to her sister's house because she has a bunker there. But a freak snowstorm hits, and this is a horrible snowstorm. She crashes And then next thing she knows, she wakes up in this like old creepy mansion with this man next to her saying, "Oh, I've just nursed you back to health. I found you in a car crash, but you can't go outside because the weather is really, really, really bad." And so she doesn't know if she's been kidnapped. And so she is like, how can I trust you? What the heck is going on? But she also doesn't remember why she was driving in the first place. Like, she doesn't remember that there was some sort of weird apocalypse going on. And so it's just really creepy, really cool. And like I said, I don't know what I would do in these character situations. And so even though they're not always making good decisions, it's like, yeah, I don't think anybody would be consistently making good decisions in this situation, because what the heck? This is a crazy situation. And so the thing I love about this book is we get the snow setting because there's like this freakish snowstorm going on and that is forcing them to stay in this house. But we're also getting like a creepy, possibly haunted house situation too, with this creepy manor in the middle of nowhere in a forest that she didn't know existed. And it's just, it's like the best of both worlds, you know? Typically, like, the classic Darcy Coates is her writing a haunted house story. And so I wasn't sure if I would miss that in this snow story. But this is a solid snow story plus solid haunted house story, plus really cool characters and like isolated setting and possible apocalypse. I'm loving it so much. Like I said, I'm about halfway through. I'm just gonna sit down and read through the rest of it, and then I think my final check-in will be at my more official setup, where I will let you know what I end up thinking about this book. But I will be shocked if I end up giving it anything less than 5 stars. Honestly, it's feeling like a 5-star read. And then I will rate all the books based on creepiness and snowy atmosphere. So I will see you in a bit.
Hello, welcome to the end of the video. I need to update you because I did finish Voices in the Snow and it was fantastic. I'm giving it 5 stars. It was such an enjoyable read. The end twist was so fun and so creepy, just imagining the imagery of what was going on. And I just thoroughly enjoyed this. The characters were fantastic throughout. The setting was A++. The plot was so fun. And while I could see complaints being had about maybe in the middle, like not much plot actually happening, I was so invested in these characters and in their blossoming relationship towards each other that I didn't care that not much was going on, because the atmosphere was just so creepy. This book was incredibly atmospheric, which is true of almost every Darcy Coates book that I've read. So now that I've read all 4 of these books, Voices in the Snow, Breathless, Shiver, and This Is Where We Talk Things Out, up on the screen somewhere, I want to rate each of them based off of creepiness. So of course the horror books will come up on top, which isn't always the case though. I know I said of course as if that's a given fact, but sometimes a horror book isn't that creepy, and sometimes thriller books are exceptionally creepy. So let's start from the bottom and work our way up. So I think the book that was the least amount creepy is Breathless, and I'm giving this 0 out of 5. Let's do 5 spiders because spiders are creepy. So this book gets 0 out of 5 spiders. There's no spiders awarded to Breathless because Breathless wasn't creepy at all. It was super boring, and unfortunately no thrills to be had in this book. Next up is Shiver. This is next in the list. You know, it just worked out in this video where the 2 thrillers weren't as creepy as the 2 horror books. I'm giving Shiver 2 spiders out of 5 stars. So there were some creepy moments, but it wasn't throughout the entire book. Really, this book shined in the drama that was to be had, not necessarily scary, creepy moments, but there were some, so it gets 2 spiders awarded to it. And next up is Voices in the Snow. I'm giving this book 4 spiders, a very solid creepy score, 4 spiders awarded to it. There were scenes in here where I literally don't know what I would have done because it was horrible. These characters really got put through it, and just the atmosphere that they were in and the amount that they had to overcome to just exist in a good frame of mind was a lot. It was a lot. Darcy Coates, I feel like a lot of times when people say she's cozy horror, which is true, I would say she's cozy horror, but a lot of times that maybe implies that maybe lessens the effect of the word horror in that, but it's cozy horror. There is still horror in here. I feel like the coziness comes from the friendships and the relationships that Darcy Coates writes. But like the horror scenes in here are horrific. I hate them in the best way possible. Like I hate them in the way you're supposed to hate horror scenes. So solid 4 spiders. And then top of the list for creepy factors, this is where we talk things out. It gets a full 5 out of 5 spiders because my heart was racing literally the entire time. I just knew bad stuff was happening, and it was like watching a train wreck happening because there was nothing you could do as the reader to stop it. You were just having to see it happen, see it unfold, and just, oh, and the end. How this book ends is like burned in my mind because it's horrible. But again, it's horrible in the best way possible. So, I mean, if I could, I amend my statement, because if I could, I'm the boss here. I'm giving this book 6 out of 5 spiders. That's right, it gets an extra bonus spider because it was so creepy. And now moving into snowy setting. Again, I'm rating these books based off of how important the snowy setting was and how atmospheric the snowy setting was. So basically, if you're wanting to pick one of these books up solely to get you in the vibe of winter, you should technically pick up the book that tops this list. So at the bottom of this list This Is Where We Talk Things Out. I'm giving it 2 snowmen out of 5. Because there was a snowy setting. It gets 2 solid snowmen. It doesn't have 0, it has 2. But it just, a lot of the creep factor wasn't influenced by the snow as much. The snow was in the background, but not really in the foreground. And while it did influence the plot a little bit, it definitely was not as important as the snowy setting was in some other books that I read for this video. And then next up is Voices in the Snow. I'm giving this 3.5 snowmen out of 5 because this snowy setting was important in here. It did influence the plot quite a bit. We got many very atmospheric snowy scenes. It's just in this plot, the atmosphere is split between snowy outside and then creepy mansion inside. And so because half of the book was dedicated to setting up that creepy house atmosphere, I can't give this more than 3.5 because it really was just like half the book was dedicated towards the snowy atmosphere. So while it did the snowy atmosphere really well, it just wasn't completely relevant in every single scene we got because we also got lots of creepy house mansion scenes. But Voices in the Snow, strong 3.5 out of 5 snowmen. And then next up with a 4 out of 5 snowmen is Shiver. This book has snowy setting being important in both the past plot lines and the current plot lines because it's snowboarding in the past and then ski resort in the future. So almost every scene of this book is dominated by a snowy setting, and it's pretty atmospheric. There are some scary snow scenes in here, which are always fun. So solid 4 out of 5 snowmen. And then at the top of the list, which interestingly enough, this list is switched, you might notice, from the creepy factor, but top of the list is Breathless. I'm actually still giving this 4 out of 5 snowmen because I don't think it deserves a full 5 out of 5. However, it is a higher 4 than Shiver was, so it's still the top of the list. This could have been a 5 out of 5 if it was more atmospheric, but I have to give this at least 4 because literally they're in on a mountain, on a snowy mountain the whole time, like in super cold setting. Like there's not a single scene that isn't on this cold mountain. And so like it is very snowy. It's just, I felt like it could have done a lot more work to be more atmospheric and therefore get that full 5 out of 5 because while the snowy scene was heavy throughout this whole book, it didn't feel like I was there, you know? But that's just me being picky and letting you know why I didn't get the full 5 out of 5, even though every single scene is in this snowy setting. It does get the 4 out of 5 and it does top the list, and I'm pretty confident in Breathless deserving being at the top of this list, even though I didn't love the book. And then to remind you of my ratings based off of enjoyment, Breathless is at the bottom with a 2 out of 5 stars. And then Shiver with a 4 out of 5 stars. And then Voices in the Snow with a 5 out of 5 stars. And at the top of the list is This Is Where We Talk Things Out with another 5 out of 5 stars. But I just think I enjoyed this book a little tiny bit more than Voices in the Snow. But honestly, This Is Where We Talk Things Out and Voices in the Snow are both like utterly fantastic. I love them so much. So it could have gone either way, but today I'm feeling like This Is Where We Talk Things Out tops Voices in the Snow just by a smidge. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know down in the comments what your favorite snowy setting books are. What other horror or thriller books should I check out with snowy settings? I love them so much and I still am craving reading more of them even though I just read 4 in a row. And if you enjoyed this video, please like the video and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you next time. Bye!